So here we are with David O'Sullivan, who is actually one of my ex-students. I think about 10 years ago I taught you GIS back at UCC.
Correct.
And then I was very pleased to see you working with the Marine Institute for the INFOMAR program.
Yeah.
And so for how many years have you been working with INFOMAR now, David?
I've been with INFOMAR about 7 to 8 years, Max. I'm not sure exactly the way time gets for me. It's funny that you said that. Yes, I did study in UCC. In 2010 I qualified as a marine biologist, and you did teach me GIS. And some of these skills I learned from yourself and from the University College Cork allowed me to take a role within the Marine Institute, and specifically INFOMAR.
Mm-hmm. And what is your role within the INFOMAR program, David?
My role is as a value-added scientist, and what I kind of do is handle some of the different data sets that are produced, not so much just the bathymetry and the normal seabed mapping program, but I use this data and try and use this data for different functions and how it's important for different sectors within the marine economy, such as fisheries or such as aquaculture. So the seabed maps create the fundamental layer, and from there we can start putting biology on top of it and seeing what animals go where in response to the different changing seabed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so in your work you're trying to link in kind of the geological mapping with the biological habitats, is that right?
Yeah, correct. So we're taking the physical substrate of the seabed and we're applying that to environmental layers, and biological layers. So this is the movement of fish in response to maybe a certain seabed feature, or how prawns might live in different areas of the seabed. Mud patterns attract prawns, and we can also look at where herring spawning beds or shark spawning beds might be in relation to physical data.
And as we heard today at the seminar, there's been a recent discovery which has been announced in the Irish Times today about shark spawning grounds. So what's the story there?
I was chief scientist on a survey which was funded by the European Maritime and Fisheries Fund, but also led by INFOMAR, which was a biological survey to explore Ireland's deep seas offshore to study sensitive ecosystems. I was very pleased to announce today at the INFOMAR seminar, which is taking place today in Kinsale, a fantastic discovery we made on that. Using an ROV, which is like a submarine robot with high definition cameras on it, we can view what's on the sea floor. What we saw was amazing, what appeared to be shark habitat or shark nursery. So thousands and thousands of eggs on the sea floor, which are very, very rare and probably haven't been recorded in those numbers before. So this is a very important biological find. And above it, hundreds and hundreds of sharks. Small sharks, they're called blackmouth cat sharks. Now they're very like a dogfish that you might see.
They're never going to grow big, like?
They're about that length. They're not a huge species, and they are quite abundant. So the species itself isn't so important, but what is important is that the habitat of sharks there's very little known about the ecology, the biology of sharks, where they spawn, how they lay eggs, when it happens, etc.
But are they commercially fished as food or not?
The species, believe it or not, is not commercially fished in Ireland, but fisheries do exist for it in some other Mediterranean countries. But what's important about this site was it was in a special area of conservation. That's in relation to the National Parks and Wildlife Service. So it's a special protected area. So it's very good that this sensitive ecosystem was within a special area of conservation. It shows us two things: that number one, that the system might be working. That it's very good to have these special areas of conservation, and it was also in relation to degraded coral rubble. So a very healthy coral reef was nearby, and broken coral formed a littered the seafloor, and within this very complex 3D structure on the seafloor, which could be identified from INFOMAR maps, were laying the eggs. So the eggs kind of stuck to the surface and is kind of hid within all the rubble, as it were, probably for protection from the open ocean. Once they hatch after maybe 2 or 3 months, the little baby sharks, which we didn't unfortunately see in the video, might go to the coral reef, or they'll hang out in a nursery type situation and be protected by the coral reef.
So kind of coral reefs create like a shelter for the young.
They're very important for marine biodiversity because they create shelter and refuges for many marine species who can go there away from predators and hide in amongst it until they're big enough to face the world themselves.
But this discovery was offshore, in deep waters. Yeah?
So it was in about 750 meters we found this. Some evidence of the shark nurseries in Ireland was found with small cases of eggs at about 400 meters, but never at this depth before. So it's approximately 300 to 400 miles offshore in a special area of conservation, and we're not disclosing the exact location. We're not going to get any more specific around it than that.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah. So it's kept secret to prevent any fishing activities?
Well, yes. It's not to prevent fishing. We assume that there will not be fishing in a special area of conservation, but sometimes you don't know. There's no police out there. It's a very important biological site. I'd prefer to keep it totally secret where it is. That way we can be sure that there's not going to be outside interference.
But this work is outside the scope of the INFOMAR, is it? Yeah.
Well, INFOMAR led the project, and it comes back to what my role is within INFOMAR. I'm taking seabed data and I'm applying it to conservation issues. I'm applying to fisheries. I'm looking for coral reefs. I'm trying to find where these areas of diversity, biodiversity.
But in terms of water depths, my understanding was that INFOMAR was mapping the inshore areas, like
true.
shallow than 200 meters.
I suppose I link up the Irish National Seabed Survey interchangeably. That was the survey that laid the bathymetric data set correct before INFOMAR came along, and INFOMAR then is looking at the shallower waters. But the Irish National Seabed Survey and INFOMAR are generally Ireland's national mapping programs, and between them we have covered 70 to 80% of Ireland's waters.
So as you're working for the INFOMAR, like, are you mostly working offshore on research vessels or in the office processing the data, generating the maps?
It's kind of 50-50, maybe even 70% in the office. A lot of the job is work in the office. You're writing reports, you're looking at the data as you get it. I do get the opportunity to work offshore, maybe 3 to 4 surveys a year. I work on INFOMAR surveys, and the survey I spoke about now, Sea Rover, was a very interesting survey for marine biologists to be on. That was 3 weeks during the summer.
And what is actually the work of marine biologists offshore? Like, I'm a marine geologist myself, I know how the data is collected in terms of multi-beam, side-scan sonar, but like, what marine biologists doing? Like, somebody else collected the multi-beam data, but what you do as marine biologist, what is the survey about? Like?
Okay, well, when I work for INFOMAR surveys, and that's when I go and looking at bathymetric surveys, I'm not a biologist, I'm a surveyor.
Right, so you're actually taking part in
surveying?
surveying?
I take part in the survey.
Okay. So you're doing geological mapping?
My qualification is as a marine biologist, but I've learned surveying techniques through my time at INFOMAR.
So you're working with the multi-beam?
Working with the multi-beam. I operate the multi-beam systems, I operate the side-scan sonar, I stay up late on nighttime shifts, and I operate and make sure that the data is
Which vessel are we talking about? Is it Celtic Voyager?
Primarily for me it's the Celtic Voyager. I've worked in the small inshore vessels managed by the Geological Survey. I've worked on Celtic Explorer, all on multi-beam systems.
David, and today I heard you speaking about the Sea Rover project, Sea Rover program, and what made this program so successful?
Well, really it was the strong collaborative ties that the project worked on. So we worked with the National Parks and Wildlife Survey, we employed expertise from abroad, from Plymouth University, we worked with National University of Ireland, Galway, we worked a little bit with UCC on this, and we brought all these together with the National Parks and Wildlife Service, the Marine Institute, and of course the Geological Survey, who lead INFOMAR. So the success was built on having these seabed maps, and then we could apply all the different data sets on top of it. But with the survey, and they helped us target our search of Ireland's deep shore, deep sea. We wouldn't have been able to target our searches as effectively if the seabed maps didn't exist.
And looking into the future, like, is there any aspect of the INFOMAR program that you would improve? Like, would you suggest any improvements or changes to the way that the program is run and operated?
No, the program is run and operated very efficiently. It's very good. It's a world-recognized program. It's the largest civilian mapping program in the world, and it has been delivering its data sets effectively for nearly 15 years now. And we will continue to adapt the technology as it develops. Maybe a route we might go down is autonomous service vessels to maybe reach some tricky offshore areas. But we'll roll with technology as it develops.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thanks, Max. Thanks for having me.